Today is May 3rd, 2013, and we are interviewing Reverend James
DeLoatche
at the Peoria, Illinois American Legion. Reverend James DeLoatche was born October 13th, 1944. In Franklin, Virginia.
Yep, Atlantic Coast guy.
Okay. And Reverend, could you tell us what branch of service and your highest rank?
Served in the U.S. Army, and my highest rank was captain. I had intended after college to be a career Army officer, but I got wounded very badly after being in 8 years at the battle at Hamburger Hill in Vietnam, and so that cut short my career. But yeah, I was an Army captain, and I commanded units in the field in Vietnam.
And what years of service were you in?
Right after I got out of college in 1967 to 1975.
Okay. Can you tell us your story?
Well, as I said, I had intended to make the Army my career. Strange thing, I started out in medical school, and I decided that, I was going to be drafted after I got out of college, so I decided to enroll in advanced ROTC. And I got in the program and I started liking it, and I don't know, just became enthralled with the military and how things were done, and my grandfather and my father had been in there, and so I had a change of career, and so I got my commission, and I started out in after I got through my basic officers training course at Fort Hill, Oklahoma. I was stationed in Panama for 2 years, and then on to Vietnam with the 101st Airborne Division. Stayed there for a year and returned to Fort Knox, Kentucky, and I commanded a company there for a year and a half, 2 years. And then, because I was a career Army officer, I rotated back to Vietnam for the second time. And it was there that the battle had begun to pick up, and we were in the Eshaw Valley, and they made a movie about the Hamburger Hill fight. And my unit, the 387th Infantry, we went in with 400 plus men, and when the battle was over, I think we had 90 that were able-bodied and able to fight. And so the casualties were very high, and I lost a lot of very dear friends, and although wounded very badly, I survived. And but the impact of the war itself, and especially that battle, still remains with me. I'm a 100% service-connected disabled veteran. And so I feel myself very fortunate, to have survived and to gotten through it. But I wouldn't, now that I made it through, I wouldn't change it for anything. I'm just, proud to have served, and glad to have that on my record.
Okay, when you talk about 101st Airborne Division, were you a paratrooper at that point?
Yes, I was an airborne paratrooper. Although I didn't have to make a jump, the 101st had sort of switched its role. Instead of using paratroopers, we used helicopters, and we were more an air assault unit. We would just jump on the helicopters and be moved from place to place wherever we had to engage in combat. So although we were airborne, we didn't actually do much paratrooper assaults. We were basically helicopter move from place to place, and became more or less an air assault unit. And in fact, the division commander had the division surnamed during the time that I was there, the 101st Airborne Division Air Assault, because we had switched our attack mode more to the use of helicopters. But years later, it was changed back to the original name, the 101st Airborne, which is one of the most famed divisions in the U.S. Army, you know, and so we're proud to have been a member of the Screaming Eagles.
Okay, so when you did your air assault, was that in Hamburger Hill?
Yes, it's at Hamburger Hill. Um, It was in the Ashau Valley, which was one of the hotbeds of combat during that time, and it became one of the biggest battles of the war. And as I said, there was um, I think Irving Stone was his name. He made a movie about it, and I think the movie really pretty accurately depicted the kind of the atrocities and the horror of that particular battle. As I said, in my unit, the 30th 187th Infantry, we went in with about 400 able-bodied men, and when the battle was over, we had about 90 that were able-bodied. So, yeah, it was very brutal, and I have some very unpleasant memories about that of friends and countrymen who were lost and wounded much worse than I was. But I got wounded in the fifth day of the battle. I was directing airstrikes and artillery fire onto the enemy, and I was a rocket-propelled grenade took out both of my legs, and I got simultaneously a bullet in the back of my neck. Luckily, it missed the spine, but it struck just over the edge of my seventh cervical vertebrae. And I'm very fortunate that I'm not a paraplegic and that I'm still walking around. The bullet was lodged so close to the spine that the surgeons decided not to remove it, and it's been there since the war. And so, you know, I do have some numbness and stiffness and discomfort from it, but I can live with it. The legs were a different question. I had to, after several surgeries, I have 2 artificial knees. But, you know, I get around okay, and I have some discomfort, but, you know, I'm just thankful to be alive and, you know, as well as I am, you know.
Now, is that when you got your first Purple Heart?
That was my second Purple Heart. My first Purple Heart occurred at the start of the battle. I was wounded in my side. I caught shrapnel on my side, and I was medevaced out, and I was treated for that, and I was several days later able to return to combat. And the second Purple Heart is when I got the bullet in the neck and the shrapnel in the knees.
You also have that you received 3 Bronze Stars with a V.
Yes.
And that stands for victory?
Yes. Yeah. And in fact, if you look on the first narrative, the middle column gives a narrative and a description of what happened in there. I think I marked it with an X there.
Yes, you did.
Yeah. And that sort of, you know, details the actions that I was cited for that earned me the Bronze Star with V device with the second oak leaf cluster, which means I have 3 Bronze Stars.
Now, can you explain for the record, if you wouldn't mind, why did they name it Hamburger Hill?
It was named Hamburger Hill because there were so many troops that were chewed up, figuratively and symbolically speaking, like grind up meat. So we lost over 300 men, and the wounds were just very horrific. You know, there were, of course, with the horrendous fatalities. There were legs blown off, there were arms blown off, um, intestines blown out. I remember on one particular day, we had about 15 or 20 troops that had been wounded, and since there's no access, there were no access to the combat area by road, the troops had to be medevaced out by helicopter, and we had about 15 or 20 troops that were lined up ready to be put into the helicopter basket to be lifted up by air. And, they put them in a basket, then the rope pulls them up to the helicopter. As the helicopter was hovering to pick up the wounded troops, the helicopter was hit, and it exploded and fell in the middle of all the troops, and it was a massacre. There were people who the helicopter blade just cut people up, and people were burned, and it was very horrific.
As a young lieutenant, you were
Sorry. Okay.
no, please don't be sorry. Thank you for sharing. I appreciate what you shared. As a young lieutenant, you had to participate in a lot of battle planning and strategies.
Right. One of my assignments was with the G3 operations, and that's the staff assignment for planning and strategizing how troops would be deployed and how attacks would be made and carried out. And so, in addition to help plan the battles, what troops would be deployed and what armaments would be used to support the troops, the field artillery, the air power, how the troops would be deployed. It was my job to brief the commanding general every day on how we were going to deploy and how we were going to attack and battle plan. So I was, placed in that position because they knew I was a career officer, and so career officers, that was a choice assignment to be in G3 operation, the planning and operation of how the troops are going to be deployed and whatnot. So it was a unique honor to serve in that capacity.
Did you get that training through your ROTC?
Well, actually, the ROTC got me through the first phase of the of how to plan and how to strategize, but after college, you go through a military school, and it lasts almost for a year, and it's an advanced officers training course, and it teaches you, how to deploy and the advanced aspects of planning. And I had 2 years of that, and so it was through this advanced officers training and planning that I was able to develop and hone my skills, so to speak.
So you went in the service as a young lieutenant,
Right.
and then you advanced to a second lieutenant. And as an officer, they have different trainings for
Right.
each level. Now, can you explain, did you have to go away for that training? Did you go to a special schooling?
Okay. My basic service branch was field artillery, and each branch has its own advanced training for your particular MOS, military officer especially. So mine was field artillery, and it was done at Fort Sill, Oklahoma. So I went there for my advanced officers training, and as I said, that lasted for a year, and that took me through the first phase to the rank of first lieutenant. When I attained the rank of captain, I went back to Fort Sill again for the career officers training course. So both training classes were at Fort Sill because my military specialty was field artillery. And the strange thing is, although I received all that training in field artillery, most of my time was spent serving with the infantry units and as a fire support coordinator, planning the supporting fires to the infantry troops, and including the field artillery, air defense artillery, with the helicopters, assaults, and also coordinating with the Air Force, especially in Hamburger Hill, which was I was in 7 campaigns, but Hamburger Hill was the biggest one. We used a lot of close air support, and so sometimes you had to drop 500-pound bombs, very close to the troops for close air support. So even though I was field artillery, most of my time was spent with infantry units.
So you were in 7 campaigns, and can you name those campaigns?
I can't remember them all.
You can't remember them?
No, I just know there was. I can't remember the names of them, but they were all in Military Region 1, which was the Hue, Phu Bai, Quang Tri area in the northernmost parts of Vietnam, with the 101st. And I just can't remember the names of them all, But there were 7 campaigns. As my unfortunately my DD-14 just says 7 campaigns. It doesn't have the name of them on there, and I'm not sure. It's been so long I can't remember. I just know I was in 7 major battles. Okay.
You were stationed in Panama?
Yes, I was in Panama for almost 2 years.
And where in Panama?
Fort Kobe, Canal Zone. Glorious assignment. Nice way to start out serving. The weather was warm, and the girls were very pretty, and I was a young single second lieutenant. So it was a great assignment. I was assigned to an artillery unit there, and basically we did a lot of training and a lot of field exercises, but it was a nice assignment. I really enjoyed my time at Fort Kobe in the Canal Zone.
Did you get to travel and see the country?
Yes, I did, and there were some other neighboring countries that I got to spend a few days in. Colombia, I spent a few days there, and most of my time I just enjoyed going to the natural beaches that they had in Panama. It was a nice assignment. I really enjoyed it. Yeah, I went to Bogota, Colombia, and spent a few days there, and yeah, it was my first active duty assignment. And right after college, I went to the artillery training course, and then from there to Panama was my first duty assignment. So I have some very fond memories of that.
Did you get to bring anything back from Panama?
I have a few souvenirs. I had a very unfortunate tragedy 14 years ago. We had a house fire that destroyed our home, and I lost my little 10-year-old son. And many of the artifacts and photos and souvenirs that I had were lost during that tragedy.
I'm sorry.
But you know, there were I had a lot of souvenirs, but they were all lost. So I did manage to recover. I think one award I had with a bayonet that was attached to it that was signed by some of the men whom I served with. So I was able to hold on to that, but I lost most of the souvenirs and things that I had.
Um, when you stayed, um, when you came back from Vietnam, first off, did you have any, um, not furlough, any time away? Um,
When I came back, um, yeah, we I took 30 days, had a 30-day vacation, and spent time with family and some friends, and in between assignments, especially from Vietnam, you usually have 30 days off, so um, gave me a chance to sort of unwind and become acclimatized to being back stateside, coming from a combat environment to a stateside, back to stateside and civility. There was an adjustment period. So the 30-day leave was good. I spent with family and friends, and sort of got back to civility again. It was a big a big switch when you're in combat for a year and you're eating sea rations and you're out in the field with a rucksack and sleeping on the ground, and you come back to the States, and you get to sit at a table with a nice meal with dishes and family and friends around, and so there was some adjustments that had to be made, and I think you have to sort of, I did, had to sort of readapt to, you know, uh, a civil way of life, because it's rough and rugged in combat, and you say things and do things, and you talk a certain way, you eat a certain way. I remember when, there was one buddy. He said he went back. I didn't do this. You're sitting around with the sea rations, and hey, pass me some of the, peaches or something, and then you're back home stateside, and you learn to say things differently. Please pass me some of the butter rolls, but you say it in a different way in combat. You please pass me the, so you sort of have to catch yourself and readapt. But being I think because I was an officer, it was a little easier for me to readapt and come back down to the civil way of life. But yeah, there was an adjustment here. So a 30-day period of leave was good, to get back to a sense of normalcy, I would think. Yeah.
um, what was, coming back and readapting into normalcy? What was the thing that you most enjoyed? Was it the bed? Was it the warm shower? Was it the food? Um, what was it? Was it being able to sleep until noon?
Um, I think it was the lack of. I think it was the um, comfort of not knowing that there wouldn't be somebody shooting at me day and night. Um that you know, the quiet as I said, I was a combat soldier. Some soldiers perhaps who served in support units in the rear perhaps had different experiences, but I was a combat soldier in the front lines, and so I had become accustomed to um, um, firefights and artillery shells and bombs dropping, men being killed and wounded. And so it was the peace of mind and tranquility that I wouldn't have that kind of atmosphere around me, that I could get up and walk around. I didn't have to worry about having to duck for cover. And I have to tell you that it took a little while to really get away from all of that. After doing it for a year, it took a while to readapt and to readjust to not being in that kind of environment. And so that first of all, I wake up and realize, hey, I can go outside and I can watch the sunshine. I can walk around. I can do things and not have to worry about being shot at. I can laugh and hobnob with friends and family. Um, the hot showers and the soft sheets, taking girls out again, going to parties and stuff. And so I think when I first got back, I just took a week off to just sort of find that peace within myself, and then sort of branched out from there. Because it as a combat soldier goes through a lot of changes, and it takes some time to readapt and get back into a state of normalcy, and adjustment of just being at peace and tranquility, and enjoying yourself. And even after I left the service, especially after being wounded, there was well, I mean, I said that I was 100% service connected. 50% of it is PTSD, and you don't completely get away from the combat atmosphere and the effects that combat has upon you from having been in that kind of environment. So it was readjusting and readapting. I guess I still am readapting now. I see my psychologist once every 2 weeks, and that helps to keep me on course. And I was glad to see that in the later years that there's been a great deal of emphasis on treating PTSD personnel, because a lot of times, in fact, I didn't realize that I was really suffering from it. I was doing things, and things were sort of out of the ordinary. So I went to the VA and said, maybe you should be seeing a psychologist, or a psychiatrist, and has been an ongoing process. Even so many years later, I still need that support I think I'll always be readapting and readjusting, because I think that kind of environment, I think indelibly leaves a permanent impact, and I don't think you ever completely get over it. You get better, and things are not as severe as they were. Like loud noises used to really bother me a lot, and I still have a phobia now. If I go to a restaurant, I have to sit with my back towards the wall or window, where I'm uncomfortable if I can't see in the back of me. I guess because I got shot through the back of the neck, and the wounds that I had, and I always have to be vigilant and on guard. So those are just some of the side effects that come with it. But over time, I do very well.
Um, I'm here at the American Legion today, and so you are a member of the American Legion.
Yeah, in fact, I'm the commander of the 16th District of the American Legion. We have, in addition to this post, I have 45 other posts in 6 different counties, and I'm the commander of 5,217 veterans. And I enjoy being around the guys. It's sort of a paramilitary unit, and we, are still actively involved in first of all, veterans welfare. There are a lot of veterans who need help in getting their benefits and being pointed to, the right direction to get medical help that they need. And there are many programs that we deal with children and youth, and the baseball programs, oratorical contests, many activities that we as a unit, we're able to help and benefit society.
Do you belong to any other veteran organizations?
No, this is the only one, the American Legion. I've been so busy with the American Legion that I really don't have time for the VFW or any other group. But especially as a commander, I spend a lot of time traveling from post to post, and some of the posts are 75 and 80 miles away, and so I try to get to as many of them as I can to meet with them and share with them. So I stay pretty busy on the move, and it's a wonderful experience. I've always been a unit commander while I was on active duty. Other than 1 or 2 staff assignments, I always seemingly had command responsibilities, both on stateside and in combat. And so this is comfortable for me, being in the command unit. The only thing is, in combat, you're keeping orders carried out. Here, you got to ask the guys nice, will you do this, will you do that? It's a spirit of cooperation and friendship, but it's great, being in this position.
Well, I would like to take this time and thank you for your service to our country.
Thank you, Cheryl, for acknowledging that. And I'm sure that you hear this from many Vietnam veterans. One of the things that we've had to live with is the unthankfulness and ingratitude that many of the Vietnam veterans suffered coming back home. It was a very unpopular war. And I still have bad feelings today that when we got ready to return to the U.S., said, don't wear your uniforms because you're going to shout things at you, they're going to throw cans at you. And I remember when I came back the second time and landed at San Francisco International Airport, that some of those things happened. Even though you didn't have the uniforms on, they knew that we were troops coming back home. And so I'm glad to see that in the later years that society has, I think, expressed more appreciation to those of us who were in the Vietnam era, and I think they're coming to realize now that we were just doing our job like they did in World War I, World War II, and other conflicts, and not holding us responsible for the political decisions that were made. And so I'm glad to see that that feeling of acceptance has finally come around.
I do accept you, and I do thank you for your time and that you served our country, and what a wonderful job you did.
Thank you, Cheryl.
And I also want to thank you for the time you spent with me this morning.
Thank you, it's been my pleasure.
And sharing your story. I do appreciate it.
Thank you, Cheryl.